Ladies and Germans, how you all doing? This is Con Over coming to you with some Steel Division 44. First of all, it feels great to be back, guys. I just got back from a week of vacation. I was celebrating my birthday for a little bit of time, so I am back, and I am casting a game that supposedly, as you guys can see below, says live, but I actually don't even know how long this game might even be, so we'll see how it goes on that one. What I can tell you for sure is that, well, we have ourselves a couple of Canadian players today, and I dare say they should be interesting to watch. We have hashtag US Pilot 3D and Marcus Aurelius, both of them playing the 3rd Canadian Infantry. On the Axis side, forming up already over here on the right-hand side, we have Tarsh the 4th playing the 91st Luftlande, and Metallic forming up over here on the German left, playing as the 12th SS-Panzer. Now, if we're going to kind of expect some things out of the early part of this game, we will definitely probably be seeing an early domination by the Canadians. On the map itself is, of course, Cheux. At least I'm pretty sure it's Cheux. Unfortunately, taking a week off has definitely hurt my recognition of a lot of material on this particular map. But we'll get through it together, won't we, guys? As completely expected, we see the Canadians form up in a nice long column under one road right here, more than likely trying to shift on forwards and take positions of this town, as well as locking down this particular crossroads here. The Germans, for their own particular opportunities, will be able to drive up a similar area and expect to see the fighting to hit hard and heavy right around this intersection. Meanwhile, on the Canadian right, that is exactly what it is, and the Axis left, like I said already, we're going to have ourselves the 12th SS-Panzer setting on up. These guys don't do particularly well in the first phase. They only have a couple of Boita Cromwells and Fireflies to kind of fight off the enemy competition, though they do have themselves some decent, at least, anti-tank presence to field. Now, on the opposite side of things, we again are going to see, what do we have here? Several squads of infantry, 1 recon. We have ourselves a lovely, lovely Ram 2 tank, as well as we have any other... No, we actually have a couple of recons. That's kind of surprising there. In the left, looking to probably form a nice little linking up defense right around maybe perhaps this field right here. Maybe able, even going for this one position over here to set up and start controlling these farmlands. We have ourselves some more recon, a little bit of infantry, another anti-tank gun. Now, from the German side of things, what do we have? Well, the 91st Luftlande, not unsurprisingly, feels incredible amount of elite infantry, although they will be sacrificing some of their troops early on. But interestingly enough, we also are going to see a Schimmenwagen very early with a 210mm call-in. So 3 artillery strikes there. What's more, Tarsh will seem to be locking down the linking point between the two players on the Axis side. Although for the Axis already, we're going to see a mortar half-track, as well as what we have, tons and tons of half-tracks. A little bit of infantry, but not that much. And really wide on the outside, we're going to have ourselves another half-track sidling on in, as well as some infantry beyond that. So it would definitely be interesting to see how that evolves moving forward. But as we wait for the starter's pistol, it'll be interesting to see how the Canadians look to kind of explode out of this. You see already we have some anti-tank on the field, as well as a couple of very, very light vehicles, Stag AA guns. Now, of course, those guys do have 12-7s, but it's just a bunch of machine guns, really, so there's not a lot of actual firepower to be seen early on, especially on the Canadian left. There is this couple of 6-pounders going to be shifting on in behind these Lloyd carriers, and it looks like this linking force is going to get a little bit beefier. What's that? That's a Lynx? Yes, it is. So it's a Lynx recon vehicle. Now, this guy, of course, for himself, just has a Bren gun. Doesn't even have anything else besides that. And even then, he has very little in the way of firepower, I would argue. The Germans just continue to beef out their section, so the 91st has themselves very well set up, I would say. And we'll just wait for the pistol to get started here. Now, guys, while I was away, I did notice that we have ourselves a couple of new members to our particular community here. I'm so super happy to see that. But let's get back to this. Okay, I forgot that. Canadians over here on the left-hand side looking to take out positions on this town. The linking force being a little bit less linking than I thought, unless we see, yep, there we go. So the AT gun is going to sidle on in. In fact, let's slow this down half a second just so we can kind of focus on that. The AT gun is going to take that position between these two forests. Now the question is, which direction will he face? Looks like right now he's looking to lock down the left side as opposed to really taking advantage of his opportunity to keep the Germans from linking on up. Canadian right, well, a fairly consistent breakout. Let's see, where is that ram going to be going? Okay, so a little more conservative from him, looking to kind of just make sure he can see this couple of hedgerows. An AT gun over here is not in sight at all. No, we just have recon like crazy. Now, how about the 12th SS-Panzer? What are we looking at? Okay, so we have a couple of deposits here and infantry in this half-track sidling out way to the axis left. Blocking force in the meantime in the central position, kind of taking a very conservative route, as well as these sets of infantry. But I imagine we're going to see, yep, the Germans are thinking to get inside this town. They're not going to be able to do it. Although we are going to see a fantastically timed barrage. And won't that be nice? That speed 1 seems really, really quick right now, and I don't know why. Like I said, it's been a week since I've been on this, so guys, so please forgive me if my casting is a little bit off. We will see the initial beginnings of engagement happening quite soon. Fallschirmjägers pouring some fire in against these attacking flamethrowers, and won't that be kind of dicey? As Marcus Aurelius is really looking to bring in the heat early on, these Fallschirmjägers are immediately cooked. But there we go, we also see the flamethrowers going on down. Okay, first barrage coming on in. And that was a shockingly effective idea. He's taken on another flamethrower squad. He's got some really great positions working here. That's a very nice start for Tarsh. However, in the meantime, these sniper scouts here, where they would put, I'll be putting fire over into this kind of second-rate infantry, the Escalating. And despite a rather effective first barrage, it looks like the Canadians will seize this town a fair bit. Linking forces, though, will keep things fairly locked down over here on the axis left. What are we going to see? Well, first we're going to see Leo Major. I'm afraid I don't know a whole lot about Leo here, but I can imagine he's probably quite good at what he does. And the Ram 2 getting a good shot in and take out the Boyta Cromwell, so that's a big threat right there against the Germans. Question is, if this Pak-38 can see him. Okay, here's going to get that first shot off. Looks like it's going to be the Pak-38 bouncing rounds, and it's not a little bit unfortunate, but okay, he's putting fire at the wrong opportunity here. Crew's been knocked out again, and more smoke has been put on down. But it's by the German half-track, so well done there. And the crew's been killed. Okay, so we're seeing some very good initial play coming off the 12th SS, I would argue. In the meantime, a lot of snipers shifting on forwards, and this is much more sniper play than I'm used to seeing out of the Canadians. Attack beacon from Tarsh, though. Tarsh anticipates you can snap the connecting point between the two Canadians. That might just be a great option as more infantry gets poured into the left-hand side for the Canadians. This MG34 will keep a good amount of this initial approach kind of locked down. Also going to see a early Panzer III being brought on into the 91st Luftlande, pulling for every little bit of firepower they can get. Now the question is, okay, so we are going to see a more aggressive stance taken from the Canadians on the right-hand side, but immediately they get poured fire into, and there's smoke coming down, there's tons of machine gun fire, and Leo Major is actually already dead. I've actually not seen this much smoke being used since a Philip Morris convention. Ay. But this Ram 2 trying to charge on through this smoke, he's trying to get a line of sight onto something, and he's just going to be breaking out of it in just a moment here. Any second now. But no, I think he's going to come under fire from that Pak-38 if he's not careful. Yeah, this Pak-38 could take him out, but I think one of these half-tracks is going to bite in the meantime. Yep, pinned down. Oh no, he's pinned down instead. Oh, that's hard cheese to swallow right there. In the meantime, though, we will see the half-tracks are shifting forwards, and they will cut this infantry to pieces. There's absolutely no anti-tank over here, save for these Piat troops hunkering down in these woods. Meantime, Pak-38 refuses to fall back. It might be a decent option, but I'm not sure that's really the best one under the circumstances. He's getting fire down now, putting a fire into the Ram 2, but the Ram 2 just needs to fire off one tiny little bit and to really take out that entire position. He's pinned down yet again. So a lot of give and take early on. This Panzer III over here, ooh, we see another anti-tank, off-map barrage being called on in. And the Canadians are having a hard time of it. They have taken a good chunk of this town, but seems to be getting forced back a little bit here. Piat's definitely out of range. Yes, they can see a good chunk of the area here, but what is that? Yep, only 200 meters of range. Not going to be doing a whole lot. This infantry dumps on out, and that's going to give a lot more time here for this 91st Luftlande to press their claims on the Canadian left. And you can see right now we have barely any score whatsoever. However, another Ram 2 tank coming on, and the question is there any anti-tank over here worth their salt that can take him on out? And the immediate answer to that is no. We are going to see another TOT barrage coming in, and the Axis apparently have given ground on the right-hand side, probably on the back of that Ram. Yes, looks like he's taken out at least one of those half-tracks, and the other ones are actually very rapidly falling out of ammunition here. 6-pounder takes out the motor half-track, and the 12th SS-Panzer might be collapsing under the weight of this furious, furious attack. Meanwhile, in the center, the Germans are holding fairly strong, mostly because this Lynx right here is completely without ammunition. Be kind of amusing if the Germans aggressed on that area. However, in the meantime, Ram 2 tank still has a good chunk of firepower to be levied at this German infantry. And indeed, actually, the Panzer III sidling on over to take out the Staghound might do decently well. We'll see there. But a TOT barrage coming in, and that's very well done. But the Stormtroopers have also, in the meantime, have forced the surrender of a linchpin German unit. MG, in the meantime, has been taken on out, and a lot of the Canadians over here is really just this flamethrower keeping things in order. Staghound has gone down. Another guy getting aggressed on fairly quickly here. But it's 51-49, and the Germans are reeling a little bit, especially over here, where the SS-Panzer division is getting blown to pieces. However, we see a Firefly coming on in. This guy might be able to stop the bleeding. Take out the look on his line of sight right now. If this Ram 2 is incautious, we can really see a shift on the left-hand side here. We have seen, of course, the 6-pounder has taken on out that charging half-track, but has done nothing against these charging Panzer grenadiers. And indeed, even the Ram 2 can't make any kind of a headway against that. Thank you very much, domo arigato, mostly because of those Panzerfausts. There's the boy with the Firefly. I was going to say, where is that bad boy? Bad Mama Gemma. He's sliding on up right here, which will put him in great opportunity to put fire into this infantry. Question is, okay, with the 2-inch carrier coming on in as well. Interesting, interesting, interesting. More Canadians being poured into the left-hand side here, really looking to pressure in on this town. And with flamethrowers almost threatening to push on out, it's a very, very brave gesture. And indeed, they will do rather well against the Ersatz-Truppen if they're not careful. However, I would argue this Panzer III could really shift things around pretty quickly. If you can get any kind of fire either into this Kangaroo with the machine gun or for the Ram 2 over here, even with the Ram 2's greater armor and firepower. So here now these flamethrowers are engaged. They're going to put some fire coming on in, and indeed, oh, we have an ISG putting fire, direct fire, almost at that, or right into them. Doing some great damage at the same time, too, cutting down to half strength. And there they go, they're out. So the Canadians have just lost their foothold on the left side of that town. And while they're throwing more troops into the center and indeed stabilizing this entire area, I would argue that this Pak-36 really is, yep, he's moving forward enough to kind of take out this Lynx. And the Lynx has absolutely no ammo. Can't do anything about it. Boy to Firefly shifting on over to the side, trying to get a line on that Ram 2, but he just continues to be frustrated. And Phase B is finally coming in after another minute and a half, which means it's going to be a lot stronger time for, I would argue, the 12th SS, and a not so great a time for the 3rd Canadian. And indeed, we see the 91st Luftlande is actually charging on forward with Fallschirmjäger flamethrowers. These Flammenwerfers are terrifying. It's just a, yep, it's an 41. So this model was quite deadly, guys. It gives it a 12. Okay, it was a devastating thing. Look how quickly it pins down those rifles. And indeed, with this by itself, these two squads might be able to pressure all of this material right back out of this town. I'm not sure this guy has any more engaging firepower, but I don't think he does. Pak-40 in the meantime has been called on in, looking to get any kind of fire. Indeed, I think he even has taken out that Ram 2. Yes, the Ram 2 is gone. Let me see if I can find that corpse for you guys. Judging by his line of sight, was the Ram 2 right over here, perhaps? Alright, but we are going into Phase B, 20 seconds. So indirect fire coming in for the Fallschirmjägers. And the 12th SS is trying to bring in a Wirbelwind. Ooh, a Wirbelwind. This would be kind of fun. Not an ammo explosion. Very, very unlucky ammo explosion coming out against that poor 2-inch carrier. I cannot tell you, though, one way or the other if that was indirect fire that was able to do that. While the Germans are slowly stabilizing, it is not quite enough just yet, and indeed we have a Spitfire making gun runs at this Pak-36. This guy is quite terrifying. If this Kangaroo can get on in, he might be able to take out the anti-tank gun, and that would be a great victory for the area. With a Spitfire making gun runs on the ground, not too hard to see how well that's going to go. ISG, in the meantime, comes down under fire from these rifles and this Kangaroo, but he's giving better than he's getting for the most part, at least until his 25-pounder starts laying down that covering fire. And you can see right now he is also getting pinned rather succinctly. Now my question is, the Flammenwerfers, Flammenwerfers are just charging on forwards, man. They've taken no losses, they've taken almost no stress whatsoever, and indeed, there's a 7th shot here coming on out. He's been using smoke grenades like crazy. So Tarsh really has to be commended for his use of smoke over here. Indeed, both ones, I would have to argue, have to be commended. Ram 2 is charging on forwards. Where's that Boita Firefly? He is not putting fire into this Ram 2. I don't think you can even see him just yet. But I don't think the converse is also true. Yep, both players are trying to get some kind of line of sight on their enemy tank, but they can't seem to be doing it. In the meantime, this Pak-36 is putting rounds into this Ram 2 over here, and this Ram 2 should eventually fall down to this kind of firepower, but for the time being, it's just bouncing like crazy. Side armor on him is pretty beefy, so okay, the shooter's been wounded. That's a big victory right there. And this Boita Firefly is no. I thought he was putting fire in onto this Ram 2, but no. Instead, he's putting fire into these rifles. His Panzer Grenadiers are in danger of getting cut off. This Wasp is definitely going to cause quite an issue there. And this Boita Firefly continues to be very aggressive, trying to get line of sight on something, anything, but he's not able to do so. Stormtroopers charging on forwards, and ooh, a Wolverine coming on in, as well as a call in Ram. Half-track surrenders himself, and that wasn't particularly surprising there. ME-109 just on Overwatch, I would argue. Take a quick look at what both players can see. So the left on the Canadians, not quite so much. They know that some stuff is being taken out, but they don't know where or how or what. Let's go back to neutral for a second. So enemy contact. Ooh, a Martyr 2. Martyr 2 could be very good against this vehicle play charging at the left center position. But these Kangaroos are incredibly vulnerable, as you can see, to Faust play. And that will herald the death of one of them. And indeed, I think the other one's going to die. Or at least one warrior is going to die if they are not careful. They're, in fact, charging on forward. He has no ammo whatsoever. He's looking to try to force a surrender before that happens. And this guy, well, he's almost out of ammunition himself, my friends. The Grenadiers Fallschirmjägers have to back off. Not doing so, he's going to lose them, and that's not going to be a positive experience. And jeez, yep, there they go. That's a big loss right there, I'd argue. Pioneers coming on in. These guys have some good firepower up close, but not enough to really, I would say, tilt the battle space on their own. So that second Martyr coming in. Yep, another Martyr 2 coming on in. In the meantime, a Panzer 4 coming in for the 12th SS-Panzer. The question is, where's he coming? Way over here on the left-hand side. It's a very unfortunate thing for players on the Axis left. The arterials definitely favor the Allied players a heck of a lot more. This entire field right here is almost impossible to get across effectively. A Flammenwerfer half-track gets taken out by this Ram 2, I believe. Yep, that's the Ram 2. And a TOT barrage on Boita Firefly could do some really great damage, but the Stormtroopers are not going to be around a long time to see it. Pinned almost immediately. But the Boita Firefly is also taking some very unwelcome attention. Wolverine is finally charging to the fore, but he's behind these hedgerows, so not a lot going to be happening there. Grenadiers get taken out in the meantime, so if he takes out these Stormtroopers, that could give him a little bit of an edge. This is an infantry fight. Let's get back to the center, though. So this Pak-36 is staggering slowly forwards. If he could get beyond these trees, he could be in a great position to do the same thing the Canadians tried to do early on by holding down this forested corner here. But it's not going to be the easiest opportunity. Now, where are these mortars going? So we are probably going to see a slightly more resurgent... Ooh, maybe not resurgent. I would like to see the 91st Luftlande push a little bit more. Realizing, of course, they have very little in the way of significant AT to take out something like the Sherman 3. This guy's been upgunned pretty well, I would say. They really need to remove this 25-pounder and indeed put some pressure on these AT, tank destroyers that are coming onto the map right now for Phase B. Stormtroopers finally do go down. The last couple of rounds coming in, taking out, was it the Pack 36, the Pack 40? It might be Pack 37, forgive me, the model is not always the perfect thing that comes to mind. Panzer IV, though, is still in the area, as is the Beta Sherman. Excuse me, Beta Firefly, I meant to say, forgive me. Though, ironically, it still is technically correct. This SPW is going to go down pretty quickly. One or two more shots. Bailing on out. Yep, that man is gone. Not my baby. Don't say maybe. I believe he's going to die pretty quickly here. So, anti-tank gun is forced into a little bit of a very, I call this delicately, a defensive posture, let's say. But the Tripolston definitely goes and puts a lot of pressure onto the aggressing ME-109. Now, German left, you are going to see a Henkel coming on in. Ooh, after the Sherman 3. Interesting decision. Pack 40, in the meantime, is taking a lot of firepower. Here comes the Henkel. He's coming in with an awesome kind of anti-tank cannon. He's going to take a lot of firepower from this Staghound. Staghound is unfortunately very good at what he does. And indeed, we also have some more Spitfires coming onto the map. Question is, does ME-109 dissuade them from attacking its brethren? The immediate response to that is not quite. We see that one Spitfire is going to get behind this Henkel. It's going to give it a lot of smoke. He's probably even going to take him on out. Yep, and that poor Henkel does buy it. As another one comes on in to make a gun run at the ME-109, who was on a failed combat air patrol. Trailing smoke. In fact, both of them are making gun runs, and there he goes down as well. So the 91st losing two very, very valuable air pieces in a very, very short time span. Wolverine is able to get some good shots out in this Pack 36. Flushmakers indeed are forced to fall back as well. As Beta Firefly is in the area, but I don't think he's going to shift around to really put pressure on anything. There's a little bit of a shame, because these tanks right here... Oh, Jesus, Ram 2 is charging on force. By this particular area, will be able to pierce the German position even more significantly than this Humber tank is doing at the meantime. ME-109 making a run after the Spitfire. We'll check back in on that side in a second. Want to see if we can finally see have a Spitfire getting taken on out, because he's smoking. This is a non-smoking section, sir, but he is just not able to deal with that easily. In the meantime, the Martyr decides to pick on that poor Bedford supply truck. One more shot, there he goes, he explodes that. Spitfire does in fact go down, but the 91st has taken the entire town. The Canadians over here on the left-hand side, again, this is Marcus Aurelius. So the Roman Emperor himself is forced on out, holding a couple of the outcropping buildings, and that is it. And with that, it looks like a bunch of anti-air platforms are shifting on in a very interesting position. So along a couple of the main arterials, while also holding down these kind of negative positions to keep the infantry at bay. Now, on the right-hand side of things, what do we have? Well, ME-109 is making more gun runs, but not quite enough to shift the front back to a easy, regulated posture. And indeed, we will see that the Panzer IV is gone. Yes, and the Beta Firefly is forced back. So I don't know what took out that Panzer IV. Forgive me, guys. But what we will see is we'll see a Panther D coming on out, and a fairly beefy vehicle already. The 251 half-track, this guy's not going to last very long. Between taking fire with this Kangaroo, as well as that. There we go. That is a dead half-track, and that's a shame right there. Now this Flampanzer, or more accurately, Flam half-track, is shifting on in. This guy's got a Flammenwerfer, which is always rather sexy, ready to light their fire on up. And okay, 20mm Flak 38s coming in from the 91st Luftlande, putting fire in like crazy all over the place. So the 3rd Canadian over here on the left-hand side, Marcus Aurelius, yet again, is not going to be able to shift this back easily. He'll have to depend on these rather overpowering Shermans to really push back. Now the question is, though, whether or not this mortar can get into a better position to put pressure back on the Sherman 3. So the Sherman 3 gets to be, you know, able to, how do I put this, run rampant. You can see already this MG-34 is going to go down. Which is a giant shame, because the MG-34 is in a great position. So there he goes. A 50mm mortar trying to put fire down on top of these rifles. Going to stress them out a little bit, but nowhere near enough as needed. And Germans lose another unit right in this area. While this Wolverine, I think, is going to get some line of sight. Yep, he's putting fire into them. Oh, one shot, one kill takes out the ISG. And this mortar is sidling on around, maybe to get shot on this Wolverine? Wolverine, I don't think he's really going to go for it, though. It'd be kind of a really stupid move. Wolverine's charging, so it's a Sherman 3. That's a gutsy play. Looking to take out the Pioneers, and then more martyrs coming on in. So ever you look at the martyr, guys, an entire Catholic Church over here, if you know what I mean. Lots of good Christians. ME-109 is making gun runs at the 6-pounder. 6-pounder is back in play and definitely able to put pressure in the rear here of the German position. But for the moment, he's completely pinned. In the center right from the current position, we are going to see the Fallschirmjägers and spot troops are trying desperately to hold the line against all of this material, but it's not going to work particularly well. And indeed, this Opel Blitz, realizing that, is trying to get some infantry up in the center to maybe support their rather ailing personnel. Now, one Marder 2 is already falling on back, and that's a shame. The other one not still able to see the aggressors that put so much damage and pain and suffering onto his fellow tank destroyer. Now check back in on the 12th SS-Panzer in just a second, folks. We are in Phase C now, and it's 1,015 to nothing. The Germans are definitely taking a beating. And a hell of a beating they are taking. I was feeling much more happy, much more positive about the way that smoke was being utilized over here. I'm actually really on both sides to shield the advance of both Flammenwerfer armed Pioneers, as well as a German position over here. Unfortunately, that's not lasting right now, and indeed we will see ammo explosion. Yes, the Jagdpanzer cannot quite see that Sherman 3, and he's got to kind of hustle back, or else he is going to end up in a world of hurt. Although his armor is fantastic. So that's the thing about tank destroyers, guys. They have very limited mobility by dint of their forward-facing turret. But that wasn't really the point. I mean, the entire point of an anti-tank, well, tank destroyer, excuse me, was to have that firepower and to be able to mount a much more effective gun, while controlling your enemy's armor assets way more significantly. And the problem with that, though, is that while they're much cheaper, the mobility that they sacrificed ended up causing a lot of problems. You can see it right there. Sherman 3 should probably be able to take him on out another shot or two. But Michael Wittmann is here instead, so the 12th SS Panzer has one of its young, massive aces coming on in to really look to pressure. What the heck is that really weird reinforcement? Okay, good, much better. Taking this position here is a much better idea. Allows him to rotate to either side of the map, and indeed, considering the kind of firepower that he can bring to bear, I don't know why you would try to send him over completely to one side or the other. It is still, though, folks, a entirely Canadian fest, which is amusing in many different ways to me. Pack 40 putting fire out, trying to take out... What is he looking to hit? I don't even know. Well, he's pinned right now, so he's not going to hit a whole lot of anything. What we're seeing right now is the 3rd Canadian, in a lot of games, is renowned for being an excellent means of defining early pressure. And if you can keep that Phase A advantage, you can definitely bring the entire game over in your favor, and bring it to a halt rather quickly as well. Sherman Firefly has now hit the field, and the Tiga E Wittmann might be able to take a shot at this. Sherman 3 will be able to take it out. I don't know. Hankel's coming on in. Fuel explosion on one. Is he going to make another run at this Wolverine, this Firefly? No, he's not able to do so. But the shooter's been knocked on out by courtesy of Wittmann. He's kind of cheating on forwards a little bit more. Oh, he's just attacking move. Okay, there we go. So he's going to hunt like crazy, my friends, and he decides it's time to go after those wallabies and kangaroos. In the meantime, Panzerwerfer throws out a couple of rockets, pins down the entire section, uses and suppresses all of that material. So the Grenadiers can shift on forwards. This kangaroo's out of ammunition already. They could really significantly hamper the Canadian right, and that could be a reversal of an epic sort here. But as of right now, there's not a lot of infantry over here for the 12th SS. Maybe that's to be expected, maybe not. But regardless, these Grenadiers are charging forward. Very little fear. Unfortunately for them, they will see this newly kind of revived rifles. They get one to surrender already. That's a big blow. Pin down another one. Charge him, my friends. No, those guys are going to fall back. And while the tickets continue to go in the favor of the Canadians, these Panzer Grenadiers have been here almost since the beginning of the game, I believe. Oof, and there goes the Wolverine. So Whitman getting his revenge on the tanks that have been causing such a hassle. Firefly is what that was. Achilles is on the field though too, and this guy's even more beefy than his previous brethren. Armor, not so much, but Whitman is still in the area. So that could be a problem for him. Alright, let's take a look back over here in the town. The center is getting clogged with a lot of vehicles. There's several Panthers, the Boita Firefly. This guy's been here since the beginning? Richard, that sounds very familiar. The Verbovint is still here. This guy's not doing a whole lot, though. He's just there to put fire against any kind of enemy air, of which the Canadians have not fielded a whole lot. Martyr 2s have been damaged over here quite a bit, courtesy of this Firefly and this Wolverine. Actually, courtesy of this Wolverine, the Firefly's done diddly squat. But these tanks shifting on in, not sure if that's the best position for them. I guess for the moment it's probably pretty darn good. Flak 36, not quite able to put fire out that he's hoping for. Instead, he's going to put fire into his infantry in the middle part of the town. And actually, all the armored vehicles in the area are just putting fire into there. But it seems to have more action over here on the right-hand side. Okay, actually in the middle, the Priest, a dual-drive tank is shifting on in, as is this other Humber. But with this armored fist, it's really kind of frustrating to me that these vehicles have not pushed forward any sort of infantry support. Now, this spot troop right here has very limited way in the way of significant firepower, and you can see right there, they're taking a lot of attention already, and not very good ones. They're dropping a lot of... Yep, there we go. But the armored fist is moving forward. This is the Panzerkeil, more or less. And the question really is, this Boita Firefly, he is brave, but is he foolish as well? I don't know the answer to that one, but he should be able, I think, to espy some enemies with which to engage. Let's shift on over to the German side of things for a second. He actually has no idea, never mind. But there's a lot of aircraft settling on in. What do we have? Another Henkel making gun runs, yep, at these Wolverines in the back, as well as the Firefly. So the question is, that should be one fairly easily. Bailed out, that's one. Spitfire's making gun runs, but we have the ME-109s are still there in the area. One's falling back, so is the Henkel 129. In fact, everybody's falling back. They're saying, get out of there right now. So very, very interesting decision there. And there's finally some infantry hitting the field. Now, unfortunately, it might be too late. We have a total victory in 11 minutes for the Allies. The question is, can the Germans really kind of rotate this? We'll turn this back on its heels. Because of right now, despite the fact that this 12th SS-Panzer is stabilized and really should be pushing back, they're not doing so. Which is crushing me a little bit on the inside. Because while there's some very, very excellent guns over here, there's so much firepower that can be brought to bear. It's kind of hurting me a little bit on the inside. Ooh, no, now one's going to bring gun to bear on the Ram 2. Alrighty. In the meantime, we are going to see that final barrage being called on in by the Ram 2 observation post, the 140mm, looking to remove, at least, or maybe even just stop for just half a second. The German have advanced up this arterial. He's going to catch at least one. Ooh, it's like 3 or 4 squads there, actually. So anything hits the road. Ooh, pinned down. There goes one truck right there. There goes another truck right there. Oh, that was deadly. Those guys are pinned down already, and this Focke-Wulf can't even get a gun run in. He gets blown to pieces by the Crusader AA, the Tripolstons, and there's another one over here. Yep, there's another Tripolston, so there's just so much anti-air. Now, as Achilles is trying to put rounds in, he's going to do a very good job as well. Turn the entire arterial into a valley of death. Pioneers going to be torn to shreds. These Panther Grenadier down to a very minimal infantry level. Breblevin does manage to stress out the Spitfire a little bit, but not enough to force a retreat. And the Germans really, really need to be shattering the enemy position, because right now that there's so much area right here. If they could just break through, throw something through, there's nothing here, and I wish they knew that. They are going to go and pin down one of these rifles, which will go them close, I would say, back to closer to at least anyway 50%, but not quite anywhere near enough to make it worth crowing home about. And the ME-109 is just kind of standing over here. Oh, nope. Flying combat air patrol over the German right. Not the German Reich, by the way, but the German right. But no, okay, now they created a cauldron over here. One group of rifles going on down, just the stormtroopers left. And the Germans have almost gained themselves a 50-50 split. As of right now, that 140mm call-in, well, he's completely worthless. He's got a machine gun and that's it. And while you don't want to sacrifice your tanks unduly, I'd be very hard-pressed to see a really, really great opportunity for him here. A very gutsy recon positioning here. Yeah, that's a super gutsy positioning. Crusader tank does go down. Boyd's a Firefly. What's he going to put rounds into? He's looking for that Achilles. And Achilles is going to get one more round off and probably stress out that Boita Firefly. Force him to fall on back. But this Panther, does he see anything worthwhile? No, I would argue, no. But this Henkel does, and he takes out the Achilles. That's a great win right there. Tripolston forcing that particular Henkel back, though, too. And that guy, the ground fire on this has just been intense. But with ourselves seeing a new amount of infantry coming on in, could we actually see an effective German push from the SS? This side over here is more or less stabilized, just a lot of give and take. So I'm going to focus over here, I think, on this theoretical German attack. Because we have a 50-50 split right now, and I fairly much see the Canadians collapsing on the right flank without any assistance. They're really not doing very well. This Tripolston is going to put a lot of firepower out. And shockingly enough, doesn't put rounds into this ME-109. Strange. Very strange. But the Panzer Keil has achieved success. Fuel explosion. There goes one right there. Both the anti-air and the 203s call-ins are going to be forced back. And these half-tracks are speeding on forwards, trying to discourage troops. And I don't know if there are grenadiers in there or what we've got. But it could be quite intense. As now all the heavy SS vehicles are charging down and shattering, I would argue, the Canadians over here. However, a wholesale collapse would be exactly what's needed for any kind of significant change to occur. And I don't know that's going to happen in the next 6 minutes and 22 seconds. Regardless, the Germans don't feel about giving in easily, and I have to respect that. Kangaroo, in the meantime, putting some rounds to this half-track, and this Wolverine going to be able to put more firepower into the retreating half-tracks. I wouldn't be surprised to see at least one of them going down, if not two. Panther trying to get shots in on, what, the flamethrower? No, he's going after the rifle leader. Interesting. No, he's going after the Collins. So after 35-ish minutes, the Germans are finally getting some tickets on this map. 52% of the map is in Axis control, and these Flampanzers are charging on in, looking for some death to deal, and falling back on every front over here, the right-hand side, other Canadians. Like I said, the fight over here, barrages have come down, we're seeing pinning, we're seeing some losses here and there, but it's not easy to be pushed out of here, and indeed you see even the Stug taking out the enemy Sherman 3. The Henkel making a run in, what's he looking for? He's going after that Sherman 3. Ooh, crew killed immediately. But I don't know if he's going to be able to survive. Now, if he manages to get one more shot off, that'd be great. But he's got 3 fighter planes coming in after him. 2, actually, forgive me. This Mosquito making a bombing run, I would imagine. No, he's not. That's even more shocking. The Germans at 55%. Yes, the Canadians are falling apart over here on the right side. And the Germans, they're charging on in with whatever they have left. Tons and tons of recon troops coming in. I don't know if this is really the best option per se, but hey, if that's what you got, that's what you have to use. Sturm Pioneers are pinned on down. And the Mosquito has gone and dropped his 500-pound bombs. And done some good damage with them, taking out 2 groups of Sturm Pioneers. That's a little bit of a shame right there. The Sturm Pioneers are quite good and a little bit expensive, I would argue. Its infantry could be going. Now, you have to hand it, though, to the Canadians early on. They were definitely tearing the Germans a new one. And right there, Wolverine takes out one of the Panthers, and that is going to cause a bit of a collapse, I would argue, on the German attack. Now, what could the Germans have done differently to really turn this around? Well, one is that they could have pierced this area, which has really been ripe for the taking the entire game. If they'd been able to do it much earlier, they could really have seen some real dividends. But they didn't do so, and indeed allowed stuff like the 17-pounder to get set up, and that is going to make it impossible for any vehicles to come in the middle part of the field here. MB-109 is coming after the Spitfire, not going to do much, and indeed now, are we going to see any sort of ground attack order? Well, not quite yet. We have a Spitfire making a gun run at one of them. Recon troops are pouring on out. Where are these guys going? Okay, they're coming on out. Now, the unfortunate thing about this is that SPA troops don't in and of themselves really seize ground that easily. I mean, mostly because they're just super light, obviously. But, the Germans do have 58%, so they're sitting +2 as we speak. Now, if they're able to go back to a +3, I still don't think they're going to be able to overcome the deficit, but it would be really amusing to see how close they do get. Now, unfortunately, Kubelwagen goes through and gets blown to pieces between rifles and kangaroos and all of that. But at 58% holding was quite good. Unfortunately, it seems to be that the 12th SS just can't stack up well against the later until the later game against the 3rd Canadian. You can see right now, look at this piercing. I would argue that a lot of this material... Okay, so Marcus Aurelius is finally starting to throw units over here to support his ally. Indeed, let's see, what is Marcus Aurelius over here? Oh, he's got a fair bit over here. And the opposite is definitely not true. So in 2 minutes, they will see a victory, I would argue. But it will not be for free. Spitfire making runs right after the ME-109, and one Flak 38 getting taken on out. 38? 36? 38. Getting taken on out. But right over here, we continue to see that the Germans have pierced on in, and unfortunately, it's not going to be enough. The 17-pounder taking out his Stug. And these, yep, well, 60%. Wow. The 60% still won't be enough. But hats off to the Germans for making such a powerful comeback. Unfortunately, it just came way too late here. Flampanzers really could be sidling around, but this Ram 2 will keep them at bay. 6-pounder in the meantime from Marcus Aurelius. Could have some excellent shots if he was really, concerned about that. But, not a whole lot of vehicles for him to focus on now, is there? Now, if the Canadians had fallen back to the point where the Germans were literally controlling 75% of the map, and you've seen +4 out of this, first of all, that'd be insane. Second of all, it'd be really quite impressive. Okay, so the Ram 2 will see both Flampanzers. And I don't know if the Flampanzers will be able to charbroil enough shock into him. What actually? Ooh. He's forcing a fallback. Wow. Flampanzers. Oh my gosh. Flampanzers are able to go and kill a Ram 2 tank. That's fairly fantastic right there. Again, guys, had they just done this a little bit sooner, it'd been really, really great. Now, this priest might take a bomb to the face, but no. ME-109 is going to get torn to pieces instead by ground fire, and I think by the Spitfire as well. 61% in 15 seconds. So yes, the Allies will win this one, though not so much by their own victory, but just because, well, by their own skills. because the Germans were just not able to make an early enough advantage. It's a shame right there, because they really started to wrap things up later on in the game. Both an ending score of, what was it, 1599 to about 600? Yeah, 1599 to 585? The Allies do take it. In terms of overall kills, a lot of carnage going on between really every single player, but Marcus Aurelius did marginally better. Facing off against the 91st Luftlande, it did allow him early on to kind of score some quick kills and really, really push the bounds of what would have been easy otherwise. Tars, you can see the 91st Luftlande taking some very hefty losses there. Now, we'll be looking, this is the Ram 2, so Shaw, Hamlin, couldn't even tell you which one this is, but facing off against the Panthers, I'm going to guess this is probably Pilot 3D. 6-Pound is doing a lot of work for him. A lot of work. M10 not doing too bad either. Later game Shermans as off-map batteries doing some work. So very well done. Losses in the meantime, kind of the standard stuff, except that this Boita Firefly, wrecked face. Just completely wrecked face. If this guy wasn't an officer before he hit the battlefield, he should be one now. But there you have it, guys. That's going to be the game. So, well played to both sides. Unfortunately, the Germans just did not pour on enough of the gas to really pressure any kind of more happy an ending. Now, guys, thank you so much for tuning on in. Of course, if you guys have a game you want me to check out, please email me at conwargaming@gmail.com. I know a couple of you have reached out to me already in recent weeks. I haven't seen a whole lot from you. But for the moment, that's going to be it for me today. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys all soon. This is Conor signing off. Take it easy.